go to bed at night, I hear voices. One of like the one thing I heard is, this was in February, and I wrote it down in my phone. It said, I heard a male voice, and they said, one black dog, one white dog, one black and white dog. And I was like, okay, so I wrote it down. And then a month later, my mom's best friend was killed in a car accident, so I had to drive to Peterborough to go to her funeral. And I was on the way to the funeral, and I was just like in the passenger seat. My friend was driving, and I was talking to her about this thing that I had heard. And then I said it, and we turned a corner, and there was a man, and he was walking one white dog, one black dog, one black and white dog. So I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a real thing. So I tried to write down more and more. So recently, I could like legit show you, on I think it's April 30th, I wrote in my phone, I won't say his name, but this person is going to have a near miss. So he'll like have an accident and almost die, okay? So I was like, oh, I hope that doesn't happen. And then literally a week ago, maybe 2 weeks now, my father-in-law calls me, and he says, this person just had a near miss. He said the exact same words, okay? And he told me, so he's like, he was driving like a tractor, and like he was trying to pull off on the side of the road, and the brakes stopped working, and he drove down into a ravine, and the tractor hit this rock, and if he had hit it just like a little bit farther, he would have killed him. So I was like, holy crap. Like, so then I went, and like my father-in-law doesn't believe in this stuff, but I went to him and I said, like, I knew this was gonna happen. Like, I wrote it down, and he was like before, he doesn't really listen to me, but like at that point he was like, that's interesting. He was like open to it. But yeah, I hear them all the time, like talking, and like not necessarily talking to me. Sometimes they play music. Yeah. So my husband, his mom passed away 10 years ago. I never met her. And I started to hear her voice, and then I started to know things that I would never have known about her, because he was so like closed about her and like very shut off. And then I would tell him things about her, and he would be like, how do you know that? How do you know that? And I'd be like, oh, there's a conversation. Like, you know. And I when I go on like girls' weekends and girls' trips, she comes with me. And I didn't know she was coming with me until I heard someone say my name. I was sitting in my own bedroom, and I heard someone go, Sarah. And so I ran out to the girls I was with, and I was like, hey, like, what do you guys need? And they're like, what are you talking about? There's only 2 of them. And I was like, did you guys call me? And they're like, no. I was like, oh yeah, you did though, because I heard you say my name. Like, I heard someone say my name. They're like, no, we're just sitting here, and the rest of the girls are outside. I was like, okay. And then so I went to my friend, and I said, I have like a thing I need you like to confirm it for me, but I don't want to tell you in case, like, you know, it's just like, oh yeah, that's what it is, right? And so she was like, oh, you think your mother-in-law is talking to you? And I was like, yes. So yeah, so I hear voices at night and whatever, and I see people, and sometimes like when I'll see someone, I'll like walk out of the room and then walk back in and try to like recreate it to see if I was like making it up. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, so I was here, the plant was there, okay, I'm walking, okay, I can't see it, so it must have been real. Like, you know. So when I moved into my house last year, we moved in on December 1st last year, and it's an old house. It was built in like the 1800s, but it's had recent updates. And so the first night we were staying there, I had me, my husband, and my 3 dogs all in our bedroom, and we left the door open, and I cannot sleep with the door open, and I told like, you need to close that door, because like I don't want to deal with it. So, and I hadn't blessed the house yet, I hadn't said anything to the house yet. And on the bordering part of my property, there's a really old cemetery, and I was like, don't know. So then we go to bed, and all of a sudden all my 3 dogs get up barking, run into the hallway. And so I get up to figure out what's going on. It'll go out. They've stopped just short of the stairs, and there's the stairs, and there's like a walkway here, and there's another room here, and they stopped, and they all sat right next to. I can't get my dogs to sit ever beside each other, okay? Doesn't matter if I dangle like the meatiest piece of meat ever, if I have a deer leg, not happening. But they were all sat like literally perfectly, beautifully, wish I had a camera, like adorably. But they were sat there, and in my third eye, I could see this woman who looked like an old school teacher. And I heard her go, shh, to the dogs.
Oh, that was weird.
It just got so dark.
Yeah, when you said it.
So yeah, she just went, shh. And then she's like, it's okay. And then the dogs were like completely fine, got up, went back to the bedroom. And then I was like, I just stood there in the hallway, like talking to this image I could see in my third eye. And I just was like, okay, like I'm exhausted right now and I'm kind of spooked. So like, can we deal with this tomorrow, essentially? And then it was just kind of like, yeah, okay. So I went back to bed. I closed the door this time, and the dog slept like nothing had ever happened. And I was like not gonna tell about it because like he's like, no thank you. So then in the morning I did like my little like ritual and whatever, and then I just said like, you can stay here if you want to, like just don't creep me out, like don't do weird things at night, like you can hang out with me during the day, like we can like, you know, watch Netflix together, it's all good, but I just don't want you to do that ever again. So whatever. So then I went to the cemetery the next day, and I kind of hung around a certain stone, and I don't know for sure like if it's that person or not, but I was just really drawn to it. But on the corner of my road, there's an old, like an antique shop, but it's an old schoolhouse. So it makes sense that I could see an old school teacher, and there's an old schoolhouse right there. But I honestly don't really get her that often anymore. Sometimes I kind of feel her, like if I'm coming out of the bathroom or whatever, but I don't know. The weird thing is like there's no history on our house whatsoever. There's no time when it was like, there's no year when it was actually built. It was like sold back and forth to like mineral companies over the years, like 20 different times. And there's only a record of a house being built on the other plot. Like we have 2 lots, and there's only a record of a house ever being built on the other lot, but our house is on this one. So there's no record of it. So I don't know who lived there, like I can't figure it out. So I'm like going based on like old people that like live around me and telling me like what our house was and like what's going on, because I'm like, I need to figure out who this girl is, because I feel like she's stuck there and I feel like I should help her, but she seems pretty fine. She's not doing any shenanigans. So in 2017, like this was like when my gifts kind of came back with like the death of my grandfather, and that time like completely like stimulated, I think, everything going on up here. And since he was like my connection to the spiritual, like he was the one that was very religious, but he was kind of like the one that always accepted me for like anything I ever was, right? So he never really judged me on anything. So he was dying, and I took off work to be with him at the hospice. And I noticed while I was there, like everything was being heightened, and I was almost like leveling up. Like the closer he got to the veil, the more I was leveling, and it was freaking weird. So one day, he came. He told me he needed some kind of snack. So I left him in his room, and I went to the kitchen to make a tea and get him a little piece of chocolate. And as I was walking back, I walked across. You had to walk from the kitchen to like through this living room and then back to where the rooms were. And I was walking back, and I looked up and I saw a man, and I was like, oh hi, like how's your day going? I hope you're having a good day. And then he just kind of nodded at me and smiled, and then right in front of my eyes completely disappeared. Like my hands like a little shaky. I was like, I just stood there for a second, and I was like, okay. So back up into the kitchen. Okay, kitchen. I had my cup. I was walking this way. There's a plant here. Like, whatever. And I'm just like, okay, okay, no, okay. This is my cup. This is a plant. Like, I did it like 10 times. And then there was nobody at the receptionist desk, because I wanted to talk to them about it. But there was a woman that worked there that was like witchy, but like on the down low. And she was like lurking in the kitchen and had seen me go back and forth over and over again. And she goes, you're not imagining it, like he's real. And then I was like, stop. Like, I was freaking out, because that was like the first time in a long time like I had seen anything like for real, right? Validated like 100%. And so she was like, just like go on about your day, like we'll talk later. So then I was sitting in my Opa's room, and he was like non-verbal at this point, and we were just holding hands, or like he'd have his hand on me or whatever. And I was just sitting there in complete silence, and then this little girl runs past the door, and I was like, oh, like maybe she's like looking for someone, right? So I get up and I look out the hallway and I don't see her, and I say, okay, she must have gone into a room. And then I see her run back, and then I go, okay, like whatever, I'll just leave it. And then I hear her go, mommy, mommy, mommy. And so I go out there and I don't see her, and I go to the receptionist lady and I'm like, hey, like that little girl, like she's looking for her mom. She's like, there's no children here. And I said, yes, there is. There's a little girl running back and forth through the hall. I have like chills. There's a little girl like running back through the hall. She's looking for her mom. Like she's right over there. I could hear her. And she goes, no, there's like, you're like the only people here except for this one other man that's in this room. But there's nobody else here. And then so I went to find the chick in the kitchen. What's going on with this? She's like, yeah, so like there's like a little girl spirit here also, like her like mother died here, so this is where she comes and like whatever. And I was like, holy crap. Like it was like the most like emotional day ever. And then that night I said to my Opa, I was like, okay, like you can go tonight, like whatever, like I'll take care of this person, blah, blah, blah. I had like my goodbye with him because I was going to come up here for the cottage, and I knew that was like the time that he was going to go. And so he told me, he like visibly like could say like, or not visibly, like verbally say like I love you, and I knew that was it. And so when I left, like I felt like the little girl and the man were like waving goodbye to me because I was never going to be back at the place again. Sure enough, I came up here, and then like my mom called me and told me he passed away, and so I never had to go back there ever again. Woo! I love it. I freaking love it, but it's always like I always tweak out a little bit. Yeah.